Liza Allen is a nonfiction creative writer exploring themes of transmission of trauma in her writing. She is a past recipient of the Academy of American Poets College Prize, was a participant in the Loft Literary Center's Mentor Series program. Liza has had work published in Midraz, a Polish literary and cultural arts magazine. Please welcome Liza.
Thank you, David. I'm super excited to be here. I'm a big fan of the Cracked Walnut series, so this is really exciting. I'll be reading a little poetry and a little prose tonight. So I'm going to start off with a poem called Numbers. 1. Perhaps the memory of the frozen earth on his back brought on the terrors that refused to leave, that trail him like a Doberman on a leash. In the dark, while the moon hovers, he jolts from sleep, aware that in a moment, air can instantly evaporate. On nights when even the walls cannot hold his breath, he scans the room for the curve of a curtain, for the promise of a sturdy sill. On those nights while I sleep, he makes his way back to the only place he believes can save him. 2. Relief exists in space that reveals a clean-shaven profile in the moon, a bearded man, a neighbor from Yeho, the kindness of a teacher, the smooth flow of a creek that opens to a pond where swimmers skinny dip when they believe no one is watching. What is it that brings him to the window? Is it air that feels too thick, a room that feels too dark, too cold, too hot, too empty? 3. Nights are long and darkness is a black hole. Night air is heavier, harder to breathe in. Day air is simpler, less complicated. The mind plays tricks on you sometimes, and it is best to go with it. Don't resist. If your mind takes you to Paris and a handsome waiter lifts your hand and smiles, go with it. Don't resist. If your mind brings you to the plaza outside the Polish town where you grew up, and you see your neighbor pushing a cart full of books, go with it. Don't resist. If late at night your body is starved for oxygen and the only relief comes when you open the window, lift the screen and poke your head into the night air, go with it. Don't resist. 4. The number tattooed on my father's arm had many digits, 5 or 6 or 7 maybe. Curly black hair grew over the tattoo. The number was difficult to see. I never looked closely enough to count them, nor paid attention to their order. Were the numbers even or odd? Was their sequence arithmetic, a prime number divisible by 2? I don't remember how old I was when I asked him about it, 8 or 9 or 10 maybe. We left our names and got numbers, he said. We arrived, we were sorted into groups, and we each got a number. That was it. When I wanted to understand more but no less, he told me this. Once in a while, you would see one person from your town, and you would be so happy you would almost want to hug your friend, but then you would see that you are naked. And I've got a short prose piece set in St. Paul. It's called A Morning at Como Park Conservatory. I am 7 when my father and I hold hands and walk through the glass building, always taking the same route. First we visit the fern room, then the orchid house, and finally we enter the sunken garden. Goldfish as long as my arm swim to the edge of the limestone pond that divides the room in 2. My father hands me a penny and I squeeze it while we walk. My fist forms a shell around the coin. Against the pavement, I drag my feet, my attempt to slow us down. But my father elbows his way through the crowd, and a space wide enough for the two of us opens to the deep red leaves of poinsettias and the sound of falling water. We are at the conservatory because my mother has sent us out to finish a roll of film, a weekend ritual we rarely veer from. Saturday nights, my mother and I dress up and sit in the living room as my father adjusts our poses through the viewfinder. We sometimes change outfits 2 or 3 times, whatever it takes to finish the roll of film. My father is always taking pictures, but only in familiar places, only in places we have been to before, on our front steps, in our living room, at the conservatory. "What are you waiting for?" he asks, adjusting the flash bulb on the Instamatic camera. "We have 10 pictures left before we can go home." While I wait for him to snap the picture, I feel the stitching, the seam around my waist begin to scratch my skin. In the water, coins covered over by a thin skin of algae scatter along the bottom. Look up and smile. Throw the coin with your left hand so your right arm doesn't swing in front of the lens. Wishes on stars, candles, or coins have always felt to me a little like tempting fate, or reaching into the future to tweak some predestined outcome. First time I wished on a star, my father was there. Staring up into the dark sky, he carried me on his shoulders. I closed my eyes and secretly wished for different parents. The penny is now stuck to the palm of my hand. I don't unclench my fist. All I can feel is my own awkwardness, my uneven pixie haircut, my dress too short and too tight, my father's Polish accent, his large black galoshes and heavy overcoat, the way he never takes his eyes off me, not for a second. I look at my father and then at the water. When our eyes meet, I begin to cry. And before I realize he is crouched down beside me, helping me button my coat. In the car, on the drive home, we are both silent. On the back seat, the camera lies next to a plaid wool blanket. Outside, strings of colored lights decorate houses in stick figure lines. Staring into living room windows, I wonder what Sunday morning looks like in these homes. When my father pulls into our driveway and parks the car, he turns to me and says, "We will tell your mother the flash bulbs didn't work." I look up. His face is expressionless, but I study it for clues anyway. It has always been a road map that shows me where we are going. I step out of the car as my shoes sink into the snow. My mother waves from the kitchen window, and I picture her disappointment at our failed outing. As I move closer to the house, I imagine my father taking off his coat and hanging the camera on a hook in the closet. I imagine myself unbuttoning my pink dress and letting it fall to the floor. I imagine the day ahead, with its long, shapeless hours of silence, strung together end to end, stretching out into the afternoon.